I would personally love to have a ring of knives in my recording room. It's a great conversation starter. Hey, it's Zadie and I'm back with a new movie review. So now we're going to talk about what I liked and what I did not like about this movie. If the story doesn't make sense, then nobody's going to actually remember the movie. So, Knives Out, directed by Rian Johnson and stars a lot of people. It's like I'm watching the cast of Murder on the Orient Express again, where there's just all these big name actors and I'm like, I don't know who to point out, so let's just say the cast in general. This movie had a lot of hype. I don't know what your opinions are, but that's just kind of what I was getting from it, and I didn't want to have any opinions on it, so I stayed away from most of the Rolling Stones, certified fresh, whatever that stuff is. I try to keep an unbiased opinion when I go in. What's happening in this video, it's a non-spoiler review of the movie Knives Out. I'll talk about the rating of the movie and then go into what I thought about the movie, whether I liked it, whether I didn't like it. Then, at the end, I have a little something for those of you who stay till the end. So, Knives Out was rated PG-13 for thematic elements including brief violence, some strong language, sexual references, and drug materials. So, thematic elements, I've discussed this in previous videos, but it hasn't really come up lately. Mostly because I haven't been able to see the movies, as you guys know from my previous releases. I'll explain thematic elements here once again. Thematic elements, to me, like my definition of thematic elements, are elements within a movie that may or may not be appropriate in modern times. Say, for instance, if we have a movie set in the 60s, and 60s had a lot of racism in it. There's not that kind of racism here in this day and age, so those would be thematic elements, the racism in the movie pertaining to the 60s. This rating does something a little bit weird. It like quantifies and qualifies the thematic elements. It says it includes the rest of the rating that is underneath it. Since this is a modern whodunit mystery, I'm gonna say that thematic elements have stuff to do with a murder mystery. The brief violence probably refers to the actual murder scene and the retelling of the murder scene and what happens during the murder scene. Some strong language probably is referring to this one scene where all of these characters, they're all related to each other. Most of them. They're all related to each other, and so they're gathered together and there's words exchanged. Strong words. Words that involve harsh language. There's only one scene where this is really prominent. There are 2 dropping of the F-bombs, which is not common in a PG-13 rating. MPAA, what are you doing? And the sexual references are only small and not worth mentioning and not worth going into because I really don't want to. Moving on from that, we're just gonna wrap the rating of this movie up in a nice little bow and pull out the frequency chart, which is on a scale of 1 to 10, how frequent are these elements that I just described to you? And I'd say they're a little bit above average. I'd say they're about a 7 on the chart. So it's not like 10, which is extremely high, or it's not 1, which is extremely low. It's 7, which is above average. Yeah. So lastly, for this first part of the video, I'm going to bring out my magical scale of movies, where I rate a movie on a scale of Lego Movie 2 to Deadpool on how appropriate this movie is for younger audiences. For Knives Out, I'm going to rate this movie as a 7, which is Iron Man. For those of you who don't know how this system works, if you know about the rating of Iron Man and how the rating was exemplified and executed in Iron Man, you will know get a general sense of how the rating in Knives Out will be executed in Knives Out. If that doesn't make sense to you, leave me a note in the comments down below. It could be like scathingly harsh, or it could be gentle and kind. The latter I prefer, but let me know if it doesn't make sense to you and I'll probably stop doing them. Alright, so we're done with the rating of the movie. We're good. Moving on to what I liked and what I did not like about this movie. Here's the thing about Knives Out. It's a lot of hype surrounding this movie because you've got such an amazing cast, and it's also directed by Rian Johnson. It's also written by Rian Johnson. Whenever a movie is written and directed by the same person, you know it's gonna be a good storytelling movie because both the writer and director have a cohesive track to what they want to accomplish. So addressing the hype, there's, things like certified fresh attached to it and all that. And all this to say, I did like the movie despite the hype. Rian Johnson has an amazing creativity about him. The Last Jedi is one of his films that was just an amazing cinematographically. Anyways, the cinematography in this movie was amazing, and it's no different in Knives Out. When I saw the trailer for Knives Out, I was really excited to see a modern whodunit. We haven't had something like this in a long time that's not based on a novel. I was actually just in a production of a Miss Marple mystery, and it was really cool to see that, but it was set in like the 50s in England, so it wasn't like a modern thing. So seeing Knives Out was just a different experience, and I was really excited to see a modern whodunit. By the way, the set design in this movie was amazing. For at least the house was like this really cool, and it's exactly what you think of when you think of a murder mystery writer's house. Let's talk about the cast and what they did, because I've talked about the director and the overall like amazing production value of this thing. The cast was dynamic and amazing, and their performances were top-notch. You could tell that every single actor who was there was putting on their A game, and they knew what they were a part of, and they were like, yeah, I don't see any risk in putting all of my performance out there. They looked like they were having fun with the genre and what was going on with the storytelling, even though they were the suspects in most of it. Okay, let's talk about Daniel Craig and Chris Evans, and then Arma de Armas. I don't know how to pronounce her name, I just said it really quick so that I would just get it out, but anyways, she was amazing. I really enjoyed what she had to offer on the screen, and she had a very, very prominent role in this. Alright, let's talk about Daniel Craig and Chris Evans. Oh my god, who are these people? There are people who are typecast and put into specific roles for the rest of their lives, like, say for instance, Jimmy Stewart. That's kind of what Chris Evans and Daniel Craig have been going through in the past few years. Like, Daniel Craig always plays the posh Englishman, who is, you know, if he's the detective in this, I was expecting this posh Englishman who just knew everything and was like, yes, just as I expected. You are the murderer. Chris Evans usually plays the goody two-shoes, as seen in his roles as Captain America in the past, 10 years. But in this one, he plays this pretentious, spoiled, rich brat. I don't know how else to explain him without giving away things to the plot. Daniel Craig plays this completely different character. He's not the posh Englishman. He is the cocky Southerner from Texas or Arizona or something like that. These actors were able to play roles that they've never been able to play before because they've been typecast as certain people and certain characters. So that was really exciting for me to see. Again, the actors all put on amazing performances. There were a few characters, I will say this, there were a few characters who I could have done without. There's this one character who's only there for a few lines, and any other character in this room could have been the character, like during the murder scene. Anyone could have been this character, and they only use this character because of a few jokes that are played on him, and it's just, yeah. I liked the new point of view that we were put in as an audience. So when I walk in, you're like, okay, we're gonna try and figure out who the murderer is, and you're still trying to figure out who the murderer is, but instead of being from the detective's perspective, we take on the perspective of one of the suspects. That was just the new spin on it that Rian Johnson has surprised me with. The first two acts were amazing and had me gripped in a different way than other movies have not been doing lately, as you can see by my Letterboxd reviews. But the third act is where everything just kind of like, all of those twists and turns didn't exactly pay off because it just went back to the standard storyline that you had crafted in your head from Act 1, which kind of made it a little bit disappointing, but at the same time, it was really cool to see it played out, just storytelling wise. What I really would have liked in this movie was to keep everything contained into the one house. The tension would have been much higher. We would have gotten more like sustained tension rather than tension then a lull, then a tension then a lull. Anyways, to wrap this whole thing up, I'm gonna tell you whether I would rent this movie, buy it, or see it again in theaters. And I think the theater experience is a really cool way to experience this visually, so I would recommend to see it in the movie theaters. Question for this week is, because you have not seen this movie, I'm just assuming, who do you think is the murderer in this murder mystery? Let me know in the comments down below. Before you scroll all the way down, there are 3 buttons that I would like you to hit. There's the like button, the subscribe button, and then the bell notification. The like button lets me know that you like this video specifically and want me to keep doing more movie reviews. The subscribe button lets me know that you really like my channel and it'll encourage me to keep making more content. The bell notification icon is actually for you. It's so that you are one of the first people who are updated when I upload a new video. As always, thank you guys so much for watching. Have a great Thanksgiving for all of you Americans. For all of you who are not Americans, happy Random Thursday. I will see you on the other side of the screen. Bye!